Namaste. Welcome to the Happy Jack Yoga podcast. I'm Happy Jack, live from the Harvard Innovation Lab in Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm here with the one and only.
Happy Hanna, and I am at the headquarters of Happy Jack Yoga in Bracebridge, Ontario, Canada.
Nice. I love it. The headquarters, only a couple of weeks until I will be home to the headquarters, back home to Muskoka. Man, time flies. Time flies when you're having fun. It really does. And it's interesting because there's like so many amazing things happening that I don't want to rush through because I'm enjoying. And there's really cool things happening this summer as well. So that's how you know you've at least partially found your dharma, is when you're loving life, loving the present moment, and excited for the future. But we got some beautiful discussions to get involved in today. First, just want to welcome everybody who's here live, everybody who's listening on the podcast platforms, everybody who makes a contribution to Patreon. We really appreciate it. Patreon.com/Happy Jack Yoga. And price of a coffee per month, you get to really support and nourish this podcast initiative. But we are really excited. The one thing I wanted to say, and so I'm, at least myself, I'm going to do my best, this episode and going forward. It felt like the last few episodes, and I'm just speaking for myself, there was like so many opening conversations and again, speaking for myself, a lot of like kind of bantering, like just talking about this and that and, kind of random stuff. And, I wouldn't say it's bad, but I feel like, maybe getting a little bit off topic. So at least for myself, I'm going to do a good job. That being said, we got a little bit of an off-topic conversation to kick off with today.
That was
But
exactly my next question. What is the topic anyway?
yeah, right. Well, the intended topic is yoga. This is a weekly yoga podcast. And of course, we do everything we get to discuss. We relate it back to yogis and yoga teachers. But I guess what I was thinking was that, Hanna, you and I were both we're taking many different studies, right? We're taking a lot of different courses. And I think there's an opportunity, in addition to sharing our lives, which is really meaningful and important, also sharing some more of the wisdom that we pick up, the nuggets, the teachings and principles from the courses we take. I say that as the semester's wrapping up in like 2 weeks, but anyways, that's my intention.
Never too late for that.
It's never too late. But that being said, I really wanted to, before we get into a couple of good topics from courses I'm taking, yeah, I wanted to have, what I love about Happy Jack Yoga and this community, and just the space that we've all co-created together, is that we can have real conversations. We can share what's on our heart. We can be real and open and vulnerable, and sometimes, step outside of our comfort zone. And, I guess or I'll speak for myself, I've had an opportunity to do that this past few days. You shared some information with me, Hanna, that yeah, essentially you shared that you have met somebody and you're seeing somebody and going to be spending some time with this person. And I noticed, when you first shared that, and I really appreciate your integrity in letting me know, the first response, and I'm feeling it a little bit right now, probably because I'm nervous, but that first response was like my heart started racing, and, kind of like that initial reaction that maybe has been conditioned for many years. That's just kind of always been there. But I so quickly, I felt this space of ease and peace and joy and happiness for you, because I know this is something that's really important for you. And I know it's something that you've really craved and wanted and deserve. And so even though, you know, I wish I could have everything my way. Like we could just keep things the way they are. We just keep being friends and keep, doing the things we do. But realizing we can't, we have to allow everybody to spread their wings, people in our lives. And yeah, so I really appreciated the integrity that we've had from the moment that we decided in the fall of 2022, to the uncoupling in January 2023. And I feel like because we've been open, there's just been and really navigated this with integrity, it was it made it so much easier, I'll say, than my first marriage and my first divorce.
Yeah, you probably have more tools now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think back to at the time when I did, get divorced the first time, it was not neither one of us were in integrity. We not, with our actions, with our, communication with one another. And so that was a different scenario. But even still, we had such, Mel and I, we had and have such a love for each other that, we still consider each other family. And so even though that took like a little bit longer to navigate and get to that place of, pure love, and I thought, well, if that's something you and I have shared now for 10 years, and if that's we know that at some point in the near future, we're going to, fully embrace this and feel good about this. I guess it just why not embrace this right now, and and truthfully, like my mind, the monkey mind, starts trying to figure out, well, who is he? Is he a he? Is he a she? I don't know. I haven't been told that yet. Is he stronger than me? Is he better looking than me? Is he older? Is he younger? The kind of immature responses that maybe a man may have. But then I kind of let all that go because it's okay if he's stronger than me. We're not going to fight. I'm just and and also I want you to find somebody amazing, right? Like why would I like you? I love you so much. I have so much love for you and so much respect for you and care for you, and I want the best for you. And I'm still here to support you and you're, navigating things and figuring things out in Canada. And it's like I hope you find somebody way better than me, and I mean I think back to my, no offense, Mel, my first wife, but I feel like I upgraded from first to second. And I hope that all of us, are able to do that, not because we're comparing people, but because we work on ourselves, the work that we do, and we really get more clarity who we are. And I think, when we met 10 years ago, Hanna, again, I was, a lot more immature and figuring out who I was. I think that both of us have a much stronger sense of who we are, what matters most, what we believe. Um, and I guess I acknowledge you, I acknowledge us for making this decision. Because yeah, I mean, right around that time, around uncoupling, right? We were at least, I was thinking in my mind, because I was just moving down here to Boston. So I was thinking like, oh, maybe we should we should, get you a visa, have you come down, move into Boston, really make this work, make it official. And, frankly, we could have done that. We could have made it work. We could have had a relationship that perhaps was as good or better than 75% of the relationships out there because we're nice people and we're kind to each other. But I guess we were just true to ourselves, we have a certain standard. And yeah, so I don't know. I just, I wanted to, I guess I wanted to thank you, for navigating this with integrity. And I just want you to know, I hope they are amazing. I want you to be really happy. And I feel like lately, like we work together better. Like so much good comes of this. And yeah, I'll pause. I'm gonna turn it over to you. What's on your heart?
Well, thank you for all the kind words and the work that you do and acknowledging all the different aspects of this because there's both, difficulty and ease in this next kind of in a way I think of this as the next level of our uncoupling, right? It puts us again to test. How are we, how are we able to navigate this and what will the consequences be? Because it is another, reality that I think that I was always really clear about that I wanted to arrive to this point since you and I are not romantically involved, and the choices we've made. I wasn't ready to move to Boston, and all of the things that happened, we both know, I think, that it it is for a bigger picture. It is for the best.
Mhm.
And both of us are constantly, so as you called it, like upgrading, because we are doing the work and we are embracing reality. So I think
Yeah.
there's freedom in that. There's more freedom
Mm.
in finding out the core truth, which we could call integrity, than limping along with like a semi setup.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that. And yeah, truly feel that we're both grounded and able to support each other from here better, from this
Mhm.
positioning than what we were before.
Yeah, I like that you use the word freedom because that's what I really surprised myself, but that's what I felt so quickly. Like you told me in the morning, and I had a busy day, a bunch of classes, bunch of homework done, and like maybe first when I heard that, and initially like my heart raced, but just for such a brief moment, and
Mm.
then I found this sense of ease, normally, if something happens that causes me to suffer, like I have not so good day, but I had a phenomenal day. And I feel like in that moment, so within seconds of you telling me, I felt a sense of freedom, and it's like you say, it's like kind of the next step of the uncoupling. And because I feel like there was this one part of me, and I was sharing this with one of the ashram president the other day, and he's like, "Well, maybe were you like hoping that you'd get back together?" And I would say, "Hope is not the right word. I wasn't hoping, but I was curious, just curious. Like, will we end up back together one day? Like, I don't know, could that happen?" Um, and I feel like this kind of closed that chapter or that thought process. And so even if it was just like a 1% thought, it's like, okay, like I can let that go now. And I feel this sense of freedom. And, like I mean, potentially I could meet somebody, highly unlikely considering I'm living a monastic life at an ashram currently, and I'll be spending the summer as well at a monastic ashram. But, all jokes aside, that could happen. That very well could happen. And there was just like this sense of freedom. Um, and I guess a big part of it is because it felt like this is the right decision. It was the right decision. I think we've kind of known that, like even the 10 years we were together, we've just been phenomenal. We've been phenomenal friends. That's something that we've had at the core from day one until day whatever, past the end. And so that's the truth, and that's what we always have. And yeah, so it's it's really cool that we get to navigate this, and just really an honor we get to share it here with our community. We got yogis. And I remember when we first announced the uncoupling, Sue in particular, who's here, and others, there was like a sadness in a way. I remember Cece, a little sad, and uh, and it's kind of natural. Like anytime a chapter closes, but I think the most important thing is that in our case, this was a mutual decision, and we're so lucky to be in a place to make that because better than anybody, Hanna. Sometimes a relationship ends because somebody's ripped out of your life because of, passing away. There's no choice there. There's a lot more trauma and healing to be done in a situation like that. And I think that we've been so blessed that, we've had a year and a half now, say a year and a half to navigate this slowly and keep talking it through and making sure it's right and taking it one step at a time and then sharing as soon as, a situation changes. And it's like, I don't know, it's like now I just feel so damn grateful. It's like it's so whew, it feels good. And I'm really happy for you. You know, of course, I'm just being honest again, being a a guy, an immature guy that I am, if I put all of my focus on, okay, there's going to be another person sleeping naked in the bed that you and I used to share together. If I put all my focus on things like that, could I cause my heart to race and feel a little bit of whatever emotion? Sure, but I'm I'm not focusing there, and my mind's not going there. I'm not thinking about that. But it's just like interesting navigating this. I feel like as a result of the yoga practice and spirituality, like truthfully, I'm just surprising myself how much easier this is than I think it would have been even just a few years ago.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And I think that your life like has other tracks now as well. It's not just you and me in this house running a business and bouncing around the world. Now there is spirituality and, you know, other perspectives that you did not have 2 years ago. So that could be also why it's kind of easier to see why there is a bigger picture and that we will always have each other's back and we will always feel like family to each other. And I'm grateful that I don't have to let go of that, because if
Mhm.
you chose to not embrace this, then that would obviously be a different kind of level of uncoupling. Then we couldn't stay friends, you
Mhm.
know? So it's
Yeah.
great that you want that as well.
Yeah, and I think that it's funny as because you're going to go on the hot seat at the end of this episode. That's just what's happening. Part of our syntax. And I was looking up for questions, and and I was like Googling questions to ask your ex, and
This is gonna be the name of the episode, questions to ask your ex.
yeah, there you go. And so I got some good ones coming up. But the one thing it said there,
Community,
it's
please put your questions in the chat
yeah.
if you have some.
But the one thing it actually said avoid talk like when one of you gets in a new relationship, avoid talking about your new partner because discussing the new partner is not wise. It creates jealousy and resentment. And so this is just like a generic thing that it said. And I feel like I don't think that's the yogic approach. I don't think it has to be that way. I see how it can be. I can see how 10 years ago, like it was, that there was more of that in my first divorce. But I guess I'm just really pleased that we can face it head on and focus on the good. Like, talk about like the biggest part of my life right now is spirituality. It's like I like the saying, I feel like I have a God-shaped hole in my heart. And I'm just like seeking to fill that God-shaped hole, and not because I feel like something's lacking or I'm inferior, but like that's just like what I'm seeking. And and you're the one really who introduced me to spirituality. Yes, yes, I'd been to India and I'd lived there and spent time there. But I think you were a big part of bringing the spiritual side of yoga into my life. And so like there's so much good that's come from this relationship, this partnership, this path that we've walked together. That's what I want to focus on. And it tends to be what I do. Like I just can't think of examples. People like when I think back to my childhood, I only remember good memories. I mean, am I suppressing things? Am I spiritually bypassing? I don't know, maybe, but I can only remember the good stuff. And that's what I choose to focus on and that's what I remember. I remember only good, only like so much good and and especially just the way that's been navigated here at the end.
Yeah, I love that. The yogis say prasanna, they say that happiness is our birthright and we can find our way there also without bypassing. Like we can say, yeah, this is hard and this is what makes my heart race and this is the potential for where I can feel sadness. And also, I'm grateful for living in truth and that is freedom, right?
Mm.
It's kind of like a paradox then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so nice. And I mean, the reason that I wanted to bring it up on the podcast, because we started the podcast saying, hey, let's stop getting off track and bring it back to yoga teachings. But I feel like, I mean, this is the kind of things that people navigate and they go through. And nobody else's situation is going to be the same as ours, but hopefully from, these reflections and these conversations that, we're privileged to be able to have publicly, right? In addition to privately on Zoom, hopefully they can, uh, provide insight or just different perspectives, right? It's like, because we might think like, oh, this is the only way that relationships end, that, need to be like this, can't be friends, da da da, got to talk bad about the person. And, the maybe many of us have been in those situations, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I think especially for us as yogis, stepping that up.
Yeah, and showing that there is a possibility of navigating things differently and creating relationships differently. Like that's what we might be role modeling for someone. But more than that, like coming back to the topic of the podcast and it being yoga, I also think that our lives are yoga and there's no difference between a yoga life and then our secret other life. Like it's not like that. Everything that we do is somehow tied to yoga and spirituality because that's if there is such a thing as God or goddess or spirit, then we could say that the physical life is the vehicle through which we can expand and explore spirituality and our connection to God. So then
Mm.
nothing needs to be left outside, I think, especially when we discuss it in a setting like this where yoga is the paradigm that we are living. Yoga is not just the yoga poses. It is our mentality and the way we interact with each other. And if you hear someone snoring, it's not Jack. It's my Coco dog behind. He's laying in the sun right behind my chair, so you can't even see him.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
for that.
Yeah, it's so true. Well, so happy we get to be on this journey again. Sending so much love, high vibes to you and this amazing new chapter of your journey. And look for in due timing, look forward to meeting them. Look forward to curious to know, are they a yogi or not? Will we see them on a yoga mat? I don't know, but I don't need to know. Just kind of let that go. Keep
Yeah.
doing keep doing keep doing the things that feel right in our heart. And this podcast is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Where because I'm going to be in India to start next month, so we might be adjusting the time slightly, but it's like I'm really excited to keep this conversation going. It's kind of like our daily spiritual practice. If we go on a road trip, we go away for the weekend, we don't stop doing our practices, right? Like that's just like our foundation for every day, regardless where we are. And so same while in India, definitely going to keep the podcast going, keep the Sunday satsang going, all the different Happy Jack yoga calls. Um, but yeah, we'll keep rocking and rolling.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Well, so one of the we talked or I mentioned briefly there about this God-shaped hole, because I just heard that term, this, oh, I have this God-shaped hole in my heart. And again, I don't want that to feel like, oh, there's something missing, but it's like, hey, this is kind of what I'm craving. I'm seeking this connection to something bigger than myself. And in our Ritual in the Life Cycle course, Diana Eck, our professor, she asked us, she said, what do you guys think? Is religion and spirituality, is it a placebo effect? We're like, whoa, that's interesting. Because the placebo effect is real. It's a real thing. And if I mean if it makes us feel better, but that's interesting because it's something we don't know for certain, right? I mean, some people may claim to know, but we can't really prove this or prove that. Um, But I don't know, do you think it matters, Hanna? Like, does it, I guess, do you think religion and spirituality is a placebo, i.e., not real, but because we believe it so intensely that it's though our experience of life is that it is real and we receive all of the positive benefits because we believe it so intensely? Do you think it's a placebo or do you think it's the real deal?
I think that like if we had a straight one way answer to that, then we wouldn't have conflict in the world. So
Mm.
I think it's one of those questions that are really intricate, and that we must live with the fact of not knowing. And that is the strong and the soft spot of living a spiritual life or a religious life, is that we cannot know. And sometimes we need to believe, I think it's a human basic need, is to believe that we are part of a bigger picture and that it matters. What we do matters. I think that that's what it boils down to. But how we choose to interpret that, just kind of like nutrition, there's so many ways to, live, that we're not even like, only what we see on Instagram isn't the only way to live, right? There's so many, even on Instagram, there's so many diets and lifestyles, and everyone's kind of like promoting their own, thinking that they've found the right way, the one way that would be so great for everyone.
Mm.
It can't be true because there's billions and billions of people, and if there was one way, then we would have all already stick to that one, you know? So
Yeah.
it's that paradox, I think, right?
It's so true. That's so true. Because even the things that I believe in so strongly, whether it's vegetarianism or yoga or whatever, spirituality, there's actually no one person, no one else in the world that has all the same beliefs. So it's like, oh, I froze. I froze for a
Yeah.
sec. Maybe there's some people that share the same nutrition beliefs as me, but they don't have the same spiritual beliefs as me. Or but then there's the people who have the same spiritual beliefs, but they don't follow the same nutrition. And then some that have those, but they don't practice yoga. So it's like there's literally nobody in the world that I know of that has all the same, and so in one way, like that's good for you and I to be aware of as we work together and co-create together. And it's also, I feel like a good thing. Maybe you figured this out a long time ago. I'm a little slow, but probably a good thing to recognize as you're kind of moving on in life, meeting somebody, like if you're gonna, yeah, meeting somebody because you recognize like, okay, there's some things we have in commonality. There's something there. There's a mutual love, connection, trust, and probably like we're not going to share all the same spiritual beliefs, have spiritual practices, nutrition, this, that. So that's a really good point that we are all unique.
Yeah, and then that's where the conflicts begin, is when we try to convince the other person that this is something you should do also, or what I'm doing or what I believe is the right thing. Because if you think about the word believe, it still means only believing. It doesn't mean I have a fact. It's not the same. It's not the same as saying I know. I
Mhm.
believe. So I think if we could be a little bit vulnerable then with our beliefs, in knowing that because I believe means I don't know. So then to be graceful with others who believe something else, and that kind of approach that with curiosity would be or is fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's true. That's a really important distinction. And I think, and at the same time, just on the flip side, I think we'll agree, tend to, is that even though there's some things that we believe or may or we might have difference of opinions, um, there may also be some core fundamental things that it's important for both people in a relationship to agree on or to abide by, whether that's integrity or trust or openness, or it might be something like nutrition if one person feel if or both people feel really strongly about it. It could be a lifestyle thing. and we can't say that everybody needs to have the same this or that, but there's probably a few things that it's helpful, when you both really put on a pedestal, for example, integrity or trust or vulnerability or whatever those things are.
I think so, like values for sure, just so that the relationship is in integrity. But I do think, like, even in your environment, you've met many people who have been deep down in that spirituality system that you are currently exploring, that and then they've been married to someone who is of completely different religion, and so then they've been able to enjoy each other's beliefs without any friction for, decades.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing when people have that mindset. I'm heading to Washington D.C. this weekend. We're going to see Hope. We're going to see my buddy Henry. Anybody else who happens to be in the area, come check, come connect. But I'm also meeting up with my friend Mars. 82-year-old, beautiful soul. Been a big part of our yoga philosophy and spirituality community. I'm going to meet with him and his wife for a few hours and a lunch. And the reason I bring that up is because he has explored many different spiritual traditions very sincerely and deeply. And now he's practicing Sufi, for, many years, many decades. He's from Iran, Muslim. And but he has this perspective, this love for all religions and all paths, and not to say they're the same, like, because they're all unique, but there's beauty and value, and all of them deserve this level of respect. And I just think like a person like him, if the world and all the leaders and all the religious leaders and political leaders and everybody had a mindset like him and a heart like him, we wouldn't have this conflict. Even though we are of different traditions, different wisdom traditions, when that respect is there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. He is really special, but I like to think that he's like an elder to us, that he demonstrates what a conscious, spiritual, deep person embodies, how they behave. Like that's how I want to be when I grow up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you talk about growing up. Again, we mentioned briefly earlier, that not everyone has that privilege, right? Some people pass too soon. Happened to your first husband, happened to my cousin Dan. All of us have lost people too young. And another question that came up, or we were talking about this past week with Diana Eck in class about aging and old age, and our professor, she's 79, so she's certainly nearing that range. Um, but we just had some really meaningful conversations, and something that one of the students brought up, which really surprised me. Perhaps some of the Americans here would know this, and it's probably the case in every Western country. But apparently, a huge percentage of the medical expenses in America, probably other countries, a huge percentage of those medical expenses are accrued in the last few days before death. So essentially, like people are, desperately trying to extend someone's life by like one more week, and in a way, I'm not here to say, what decisions to be made because it's always a unique situation, but sometimes, we act a little bit irrationally out of fear. And I mean, obviously there's a time and a place to save somebody's life, to spend the money, save somebody's life, do your best to save their life. Hopefully they get to live, continue living a nice amount of time. But like in these, I guess there's these circumstances where somebody's really at the end, whether it's because of age or disease or whatever the case. But we put so much in to try and extend maybe for another day or week, and apparently this costs a lot of money. So I'm not here to judge. I'm not involved in, I'm not here to play God and say who gets to live and who doesn't. But it's just interesting that we essentially we have this fear of death, right? We do whatever we can. I take my supplements every day. I take my vitamins. I drink my green juice. I do all the, things trying to prolong it. And and yet it's like one of the things that's certain for all of us.
Perhaps there is um, maybe in our society a little bit of a lack of understanding of death and like a fear of death and like almost like an illiteracy when it comes to what that looks like and because we don't see that anymore in our system, we've tied the system, and nobody ever sees anyone getting old or sick or passing away. It's kind of institutionalized, and then that could be a symptom of that we cling on to life with everything we have. And it's understandable when, you know, when we love someone, we have a hard time accepting that,
Mhm.
this is it. And so that could be one of the reasons why we then, like, I think it's one of the kleshas, right? Aversion to death. Like we refuse to accept our own mortality. Um, that's a yogic teaching as well.
Yeah, and really the yogic teaching, a lot of the yogic teachings, the various traditions, in a way, we're preparing ourselves for
Mhm.
death. And many of you, if you've been to India, if you've ever been to Varanasi, I remember 2012 spending time there at the Ghats, which is a very auspicious place. So many people from India travel to the Ganga River in this, holy city of Varanasi at the time they're about to die, because it's so special to die there and then get cremated there. So like all along the river, all day, all night, every day, there's bodies burning. And for us in the West, that might seem, a little bit horrific, or it might seem, a little bit strange. But a really big part of the yogic tradition and even the whole Indian culture is they embrace this. Like this is something, it's real. It's happening to all of us. And instead of having this deep fear about it, doesn't mean that, they don't feel sad, doesn't mean they don't cry, doesn't mean they don't grieve, and trauma can't be there. All of that's still real, but they also don't try to kind of sweep it under the rug or hide it. Like the funeral procession will go right down the middle of the street with the person holding them up and taking them down there for the final cremation ceremony. And, yeah, and the point being for us as yogis, for those who, I know many of us, yoga for us is, do some downward dog, do some pranayama breathing, do a little meditation, and that's beautiful because we're getting amazing benefits. So if that's all yoga is for you, beautiful. Like keep enjoying that. And as we look deeper into the philosophy, it's like a big part of it is preparing ourselves for death, because this is the one thing that's certain. And so instead of having this fear and clinging to life and having this anxiety towards the end of life, if we really prepare for it, embrace it, do these spiritual practices so that at the time of death we're focused on divinity, God, love, all of the beautiful things in life. It will be a different experience versus the fear-based.
Yeah, and I think that in that paradigm, it is accepted and understood, and almost like a fact that that this body is not everything that I am. This body is just a vehicle for my soul in this lifetime, in this moment, and the deep trust and knowing that the spirit will transform and ascend or transcend, or depending on different traditions, will have different ideas about what happens at the moment of death and after death.
Mhm. Yeah, that's something I wrestle with personally. It's like, so I mean, this idea of reincarnation, it, I mean, it's a big part of the yogic culture. It's a big part of the teachings. The ashram I'm staying at, it's kind of like the core first principle, first belief that everything builds upon. And I don't dismiss it, of course, but it's also one of these things that I can't know for certain. And it's probably like my engineering mind, my rational mind that you know me well, Hannah. It's like it's like kind of black and white. It's like this is this and this is that. And it's like I can't know. Um, like, and people will say, well, look at your body. Like when you were a baby, then you were a toddler, and then a child, and then a youth, and then an adult, and now middle age, then old age. we can see that the body is changing. It's a completely different body, but there's something, whoever I am, whoever that is, the I is has stayed consistent. So it's like our body is changing. And so then there's this idea that, well, reincarnation, it's the same idea. Like you again, you take another body, and I certainly intuitively, it feels like, yeah, when the body dies, it just doesn't feel right that just everything's done. Soul is done, consciousness done. So something continues. It's just really hard to conceptualize or grasp it. And I meet people who just totally accept it, and they're just like obvious for them. And then I'm sure there's probably people who don't believe in it at all as well. Um, yeah, so I haven't, I think I'm heading that way, but I haven't figured it out yet.
I totally understand, and that's one of the big questions that led me to yoga. What happens when someone dies, and and for me it was an experience. It wasn't even um something I had to like just blindly believe that the soul has, left my husband's body and that somehow I could still sense him.
Mm.
And so that was one of the things that I was really curious about that led me to yoga, because it gave me more options than the paradigm where I grew up in, which is more like you're saying, like it's this and then it's game over. That was very painful to 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 be in a space like that at that time. And so I feel like all these years, this is why I'm so fascinated about transformation, and the big, hopefully that there is a bigger picture that we cannot possibly, most of us cannot possibly understand with the equipment we have right now, with the minds we have and the bodies we have and the cultural paradigm we have, might not allow um, for that kind of facts quite yet. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And no, it's a great point. I mean, when I think about losing like someone close to me, my cousin Dan, and I have signs, and like I know he's still around, and I just sense him. Different songs come on the radio at very special times, and special songs that I feel his presence. So I totally get that, and so I can understand how you also had a strong sense, that your first husband was still there in some way. Um,
Yeah, I really needed to believe that, because otherwise, I feel like I would have felt like I'm crazy or something.
mm,
And I still feel like I do believe that on some level, but I don't have facts either, and I don't have a nice packaged belief system that I could just hand over to anyone. And that's also fascinating, because these are questions we all need to navigate on our own, with the internal navigation system that we have, and
mm,
explore what actually feels and is true for ourselves. And that's
mhm,
how what we were talking about earlier, about these millions of different ways of believing and existing, are built because of our unique makeup, I think. And that doesn't mean we can't share beliefs. Of course we can. There's millions who share, billions who share
mhm.
certain belief systems. But for that to really land, we might need to be an inquiry around it, internally. It's like an inside job,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, it is. I like that. It's an inside job. I feel like coming back to all the conversations today, like it takes work and it takes processing. And I'm my therapist. I'm really looking forward to having a session with her next week, to share, really to celebrate. It's not like, oh my goodness, my ex has found somebody and now fix me therapist. It's more like real. I'm like, I can't wait to share with you. Like, I'm so surprised. I'm so pleased with how well this went, and how the mutual support we have for one another. Um, but in essence of time, I wanna switch to our little hot seat. Um, So these questions, and I already gave it away that I Googled earlier, like questions to ask your ex. But I didn't pick the ones that are like making the other person wrong, of course. Um, so the first question, what's the biggest thing you learned from our relationship?
Oh, I learned so many things. To say one, like what is the biggest thing that I learned? Well, I'm really grateful for our relationship for almost like it was a vehicle for both of us to evolve
Mm,
and and become more skilled at communication and building a business and even just between you and I, like I feel like our communication skills is something that I'm really grateful for, you know.
oh, you froze for a sec. You're back.
Oh,
You
sorry.
said our communication skills.
I was saying that I'm really grateful for our communication skills because that is something that I don't know, I feel like I get to keep that has changed my idea of who I am.
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? That
yeah.
um, I think that the power of words and communication is it's part of who we are and how we interact with the world. It's really, really powerful. And that's something that you and I got to experiment and grow together in that. And it wasn't hard. It was kind of easy because we both were interested in it. So that's why all the personal development that we've done both together and separately has really, I think, also created this foundation that we can be friends and can
Mm,
keep evolving together in or each in our own ways.
mhm.
So that's a huge, huge thing that I feel like is like a personal transformation for me that I received as a gift of being together with you.
Mm. Yeah, remember the first yoga class you taught in my brother's room. Your voice and your confidence and your presence was you not near what it is today. So there's been huge growth, right? And it,
Absolutely.
by
I was
stepping out
like
of your
almost crying when I was teaching you. Like I was so afraid that I felt like crying. And we were in a bedroom that is half the size of this room, and there was just a yoga mat and you. And I
Mm,
was like shaking with fear. And then I noticed that you were doing the poses, and I was like, I could not believe my eyes that something that I said created that.
mm.
And then I was
Yeah.
really grateful. And then you were so kind.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that's the path as a yoga teacher, right? Stepping out of our comfort zone, finding our voice, feeling the fear, but still doing it anyways.
In our
Um,
own way, within our own,
mhm,
like expanding within reason, where it's actually possible to integrate. That's also a piece of it. And that's why I think as a teacher, I have a lot of empathy and I feel like I have a lot of experience in self-doubt and self-esteem and communication and I'm like I can hold the space for because most people who come to that role to stepping in front of a group is going to feel a little bit of self-doubt or all kinds of emotions that then come in the way of our becoming because I think we're constantly growing as human beings. And that
mhm.
could be for some of us a really important piece for as it was for me.
Yeah, and it's so the important thing is to just put ourselves in that situation and just do it and practice it. Like I find myself now here at the ashram, like twice a week, they have these big kirtans, where people come together and chant and sing and play musical instruments. And I haven't been participating because I go to bed early. We all know that. But this past week actually, I've been going to that evening program at 6 p.m. and it's such a beautiful day to finish it just because I start the day with the spiritual practices, and now I get to end the day with the spiritual practices, and like I'm sleeping better. The quality of my sleep is better according to my sleep ring. all this good stuff. It's only good. And now I'm feeling myself called to like, well, I want to start participating in this. Like all these different people are leading different mantras and I feel called to participate in it. And at the same time, there's like an insecurity and like a fear because that's just something I haven't done for a long time. Like leading a group of people in singing and call and response. Am I capable? Like, am I physically capable? Yes. But at the same time, like I know I want to do it from my heart. I don't want to do it as a performance. I don't want to do it as like, hey, look at me. It's like I want to do it from as an offering, as a service and from the heart. And so, I'm eventually I'll do it the first time and it'll be a little bit scary and a little bit shaky. And then eventually I feel like it'll be something that I do regularly. So it's about showing up.
Yeah, and allowing ourselves to try,
Mm,
because that's
yeah.
oftentimes is the deal breaker. We allow ourselves to grow and to expand and to step into a different role. And that is
Mhm.
how we co-create. Then you co-create that evening session and you participate, and then it becomes different both for you and everyone else. So it's not only about, oh, look at me, here I am communicating. It's about
Mhm.
participating in life more actively,
Yeah.
co-creating life.
Nice.
Hmm.
I love that. It's so cool. And I just got to do a shout out to the yogis who are here live with us. I see like Andrea maybe enjoying her breakfast or her lunch or something and just like so engaged and like nodding your head. And it's so cool. We get to be in each other's homes having this conversation. And I love what you said, Hannah, about what you took from the relationship. It's like you've grown. We got to work on ourselves. We get to take with us these things that we've learned and experienced and take them into whatever's next. And I'd like to think that I've matured. I'm still immature. But and I'd say that the one thing that I am so grateful for that's come is like less criticism and less judgment. And it's still there. I think all of us have it to some extent, but it's like there's so much less of it. And I know that whenever it did rear its ugly head in our relationship, it was never good. Like it's never a good thing. It's something that yeah, it's just not who I want to be. And I think that having that happened a few times or several times over the past 10 years, it's and just having this idea of like who I want to be and how I want to show up in the world and how I'm choosing to be. It's like that's who I get to be going forward, right? And it's like that now, this from where we are now, this is like the beginning foundation, and we get to grow from here. So it's like there's so much good, so much good.
Yeah, I love that. That is so true. And I'm
Mm.
already happy for your next person
Yeah,
for the work you are doing.
yeah.
Well done.
We'll see. We'll see. Well, so with that, talking about how we get to take what we learn and experience as we move forward, maybe the next question. So what are your plans for the future?
I wish I could answer that like really efficiently, but I feel like I'm still in the phase of transitioning and
Mhm.
that my decisions are depending on my kids
Mhm.
and my youngest, what he ends up doing. So I don't have a like a super clear like here's step one, step two, step three. So step one is this transition where I'll see where he lands, and then I'll make decisions when I see that he's settled, like his older brother is now, like completely, running his own life and happy with it. Um, but generally, I my plans for the future is to keep, co-creating Happy Jack Yoga with all of you and and contributing in every which way I can to this mission and this work because I really love it. That's another thing that I'm so grateful for as a result of our relationship. I've never had um, such a powerful feeling of purpose in any like professional capacity before, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I felt that we have a team meeting every Monday. So that was yesterday, and I felt that like I can see how passionate you are, how much you love this, how much we all do, and it's really special to have that. Maybe
Yeah.
just one last question here. If you were to predict, because and only because you know me well, but if you were to predict, where do you think I end up? Do I end up in orange robes as a monk? Do I end up in a relationship with a God conscious woman? Do I end up living a simple life in a cabin by the river in Canada, by the lake in Canada? Where, if you were to guess, crystal ball, where does Happy Jack end up?
It might be that you'll do all of those things.
Yeah, good answer. Good answer. That's right, actually.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
think. You're
yeah.
gonna be a monk for a time, and then you're gonna come back here, and then maybe in that mix, when you come back, or you'll bring someone who you want to share
Mm,
your life with.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
That's funny you say that. That's probably likely. But at the same time, I know I'll just share with you. We just got a couple minutes left. But it's like after you told me on Saturday, we had this conversation. It kind of made it real. It's like some energetic cords were cut. This curiosity is like no longer a thing. So it's like this full sense of like freedom. Uh, then all of a sudden, like when I see, like here at the ashram, I see a pretty girl, and like I found myself like getting nervous. I'm like, Jack, why are you getting nervous? Like you're not like seeking out to be in a like, but there was just like, it's like my relationship status changed. Even though it didn't change, it went from uncoupled best friends, hey, how are things going to end up, to it's like, hey man, it's like you're like 100% single now, my friend. And so but of course, like that's not, I'm not pursuing, I'm not, trying to meet anybody, but it was just like an interesting observation. But I do feel like as I move forward, like I'm letting go of all seeking or pursuing, because I don't have this strong longing for, a relationship per se right now. I'm heading off to India here to live the monk life. But yeah, I think that your prediction of all three of those, be a monk, move back to small town Canada, share my life with someone, I think that all three of those are probably in the cards.
Yeah, probably. And that energetic shift is also, beautiful that notice it and embrace it. And then that's the the energy you're gonna be in, and you can create from there. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Nice. Well, thank you for the conversation today, Hanna. Good
Thank
one. I'm happy we got to have it. Thank you for those who were here live with us. Quick, I promise next week, I can't, I guess I shouldn't promise, but
What are you promising?
we're gonna do our best to like really bring in more yogic teachings, but hopefully there's some learnings and some insights and perspectives that come from this sharing today. Quick shout out that this month, for anybody who is perhaps traumatized by this conversation of Hun and I now being officially apart, I'm just kidding. We have trauma informed yoga later this month. We got you covered. Send
That
us an
is
email.
so funny.
Send us an email, join us live, or even if you catch this recording after April, you can do it as a self-study anytime you like. Email us info@happyjackyoga.com. Come practice yoga with us Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern. Hanna's even going Instagram live these days, so you can join us there. And again, thanks for those who contribute on Patreon. We really appreciate your support. And we're sending all the love and good vibes to an amazing relationship for the one and only Hanna. Sending all the love.
Thank you.
Looking forward to meeting this Prince Charming one day. And make it an amazing day, my friends.
Thank
Namaste.
you. Namaste.